Welcome to 2021 and the first episode of the year. Today, I'm going to be talking all about our upcoming new moon in Capricorn. And while most other years we'd be really planning and setting our intentions and all of our goals and all of our resolutions, this year is a little bit different. So, I'm going to fill you in on how you can use this energy in your life and your business. Aloha! Welcome to the Savvy Luminary, an astrology podcast for entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Leslie Tagorda, an Aquarius boss woman, a brand designer, and business astrologer. I help visionaries, spiritual entrepreneurs, and impact makers just like you reach your highest potential and become the luminaries you are star-charted to be. All right. Hey, everybody. It is so wonderful to be back. I am slowly coming out of hibernation. It really doesn't feel like I had much of a break this holiday season, even though, Jeff and I took some good time off to be able to recuperate. But, with COVID and being at home and not being able to go out and just everything is still feels really kind of like packed in this year. But, we are doing our best. And it's been really interesting, equal parts fascinating and equal parts horrifying to see how the first week of 2021, how the astrology, the tense astrology that is building, oh my gosh, has actually unfolded. It was really crazy because the day that the riots happened on January 5th, we had a couple of activations coming into fore. Mars, that was in Aries for the last 6 months, was sitting on that last degree of Aries, 29 degrees of Aries, before it went into Taurus. And I was feeling into that energy and going, what is going to come up today? Because anytime we have one of these planets that are moving into another energy, especially like a slow moving planet or a planet like Mars, who's not necessarily slow moving, but has spent an extended amount of time because of the retrograde cycle back in Aries, has spent an extended amount of time. When it's hovering in that last degree, that 29 degrees, it tends to bring up the darkest, the dark shadow side. So if we think about Mars and Aries, it's about aggression and assertiveness and war. And look at what happened, those mobs and those riots. There's all these other things that are kind of building up the astrology of 2021. Like I mentioned in my last episode, 2021 in the stars, you can go back and listen. The theme of this year is initiating change, like systems change. Our systems are breaking right now, and our systems need to break because they're not working for us, right? So as we get into 2021, we get this first moon in Capricorn, this first new moon in Capricorn that's really going to allow us to decide on the role that we would like to have in bringing in this new system, right? You can if you're not really ready for change, this is going to be a really hard year for you. But I know you as an entrepreneur listening are ripe for change. You embrace change. You love change. You're secure in change. And you know what? That's what we have for you in 2021. So this first new moon, we're going to do our intentions a little bit differently. We are not setting goals. We are not setting projections. We are not setting any resolutions. Instead, we are setting and cultivating the feeling that we want to bring into this new year. So in today's episode, we're going to go through the astrology of this very first new moon of 2021. I'm going to go through some of the user questions, listener questions that people have put on the free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary. So if you're not yet on my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, pop on over because I'm always asking questions and people are dropping questions. I'm answering questions. It's super, super fun. I love the group. And I started a new thing. We're testing it out. This will be the first time I've used it. So I've invited people in the Facebook group to drop a voicemail with their question about their business. And so I'm going to do a short chart reading, a specific personalized answer to somebody's question that they asked via a voicemail. And then we are going to hop into personalizing your new moon ritual for this very first new moon of 2021. Of course, I will be ending with the astrology for the upcoming week of January 10th through January 16th. All right, here we go. So, to set our energy for today's episode, our mantra for today will be I know what success feels like and recognize myself as successful. Hmm. So I would love for you to repeat after me. So ground your feet, feel yourself root into this earth. Take a beautiful inhale and a nice clearing breath. I know what success feels like and recognize myself as successful. And again, I know what success feels like and recognize myself as successful. Ah, yes. I know that these mantras that I give to you are really mantras for me as well. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned in 2020. Part of us starting a new year is really learning to reflect on our past, to look behind and to look at how far we've come, and to give ourselves the recognition and the acknowledgement that we have accomplished so much. I've recently really learned this power of reflection, and I think it's really important. It's not too late, right? If you haven't done your numbers for 2020 or even just kind of rough numbers, I really want you to kind of do a little bit of reflection. Look at how much you've grown in your social media or your email list or your revenue. Look at all that you've created. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see my 2020 by the numbers. I was astounded at everything that Jeff and I created this in the last year. It was really just kind of remarkable. And what was really interesting, we had some aha moments just by looking at the numbers, because there was an exact correlation between the amount of people that I added to my email list and also the increase of my revenue. In 2020, both numbers were a 62% increase. I can't wait to see what 2021 has in store for us. So let's take a look at the astrology of this first new moon in 2021. So if you've been following me for a while and listening to this podcast, you already know that new moons are my jam. New moons are so much my jam that I actually wrote an entire book, New Moon Rituals for Entrepreneurs, the 2021 version. It has all of the 12 new moons of 2021 with very specific ideas and cues on how to personalize that new moon to your natal energies so that you can design your most successful year yet, harnessing the power of the moon. Now, some of the people in the Facebook group have been asking me questions about this upcoming new moon. So our very first new moon happens on January 12th or January 13th, depending on where you live. If you live in Pacific time, it's on January 12th at 9 o'clock p.m. Or if you live on Eastern time, that is on January 13th at 12 midnight. So if you look at the chart for this very first new moon, you don't need to know how to read a chart to see how intense it looks. We have, at the time of the new moon, at 23 degrees and 13 minutes of Capricorn. What that means is that the moon and the sun are at the exact same degree of 23 degrees. It is conjunct with Pluto at 24 degrees of Capricorn. So the moon, the sun, and Pluto are all in this tight little pocket there. Sometimes we call it a stellium. And then we also have Jupiter and Saturn and Mercury in a stellium not so far away in Aquarius. So we have all of these energies within 14 degrees of each other in the sky, just this really bright, intense spot. So the moon, sun, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all having a square off with Uranus at 6 degrees. Oh my goodness. Okay. And so I know some of you are asking, oh, well, I've heard some astrologers say, like, this is a great time to set your intentions. And other astrologers are saying, like, don't set your intentions. You know, you're going to have to really trust your gut with this one. But in my opinion, in my humble opinion, when I look at a chart like this does not feel like a chart that you're going to want to set any real intentions, like any concrete intentions. The energy just feels really, really, really tight. It feels really constricted. And, I know you're already feeling this, right? The saving grace from this chart is that we have Venus, our ability to attract and our ability to magnetize and our ability to connect with people and resources is in a harmonious flow with Uranus in Taurus. But Uranus can be like kind of an upset sometimes, meaning like it's a wild card. It can be like surprising, but is that surprise like a good surprise or a bad surprise? Like normally in a trine, it could be a really good surprise, like a harmonious surprise. But like sometimes Uranus with its trickster kind of energy, that it might at that moment not feel like a great surprise, but later on will reveal itself like a great surprise. So like there is potential to like, run into somebody that, like maybe somebody that maybe you didn't like, but then all of a sudden, you change favor with them with that Venus, or maybe there's like, you get like this tax bill or something on that day, but then later on find out that you needed to pay that bill for just a little amount because you were going to get all this other extra money. It's like that kind of energy with that saving grace of Venus and Uranus that day. But when we look at going back to setting our intentions in Capricorn, right? Because every time we have an intention, a new moon intention series, we're looking at the degree of the sun and the moon. So this time 23 degrees, and then Pluto is right there. And so Pluto on that day is really bringing up a lot of shadows. Pluto loves to bring up the deepest and darkest shadows. It wants to bring it up because it wants to give it light. It wants to transform it. It wants to intensify it. It wants to change all of that, dirty, grungy coal and carbon into a beautiful diamond. That's the kind of pressure that it really feels like on this new moon day. And so when we're setting an intention, the thing is like, I really want us to use this energy to, again, reflect, but more so to look at all of the challenges in 2020. I know you're probably tired of looking at challenges for 2020, right? You're like, I'm living those challenges of 2020. But what this reflection energy is about with this Pluto of turning dark into light is to understand the gifts that it brought. And when we talk about gifts in Capricorn, yes, there's this element of success and there's this element of achievement, all the things that you've achieved. But really, it's also the sense of responsibility. Where have you taken responsibility? Where have you become more responsible for your success? And also because we're talking about in 2021, bringing in a new system and bringing in a new paradigm. This is talking about the authority figure of Capricorn, that authority figure being, where is your authority? What is the expertise and the role that you want to play in bringing in this new system, right? So now what we're doing is we're adding feeling, we're cultivating feeling, and we're cultivating softness into this hard energy. And we're changing any tensions that we may be faced, whether these tensions are inner tensions or tensions that are coming at us from the outside, and we're turning them into learning opportunities. And we're looking to see what these gifts are. Because if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that anytime that there's these kind of square offs, these like really hard tensions, these square offs are more about about the creative fuel where beauty happens in pressure, right? Like whenever there's a deadline, I'm very deadline motivated, right? Anytime there's a deadline, the best work happens like at the very last minute. And so that's what I want you to look for in this new moon. So the question, coming back to that question, is this a good time to set intentions? Yes, but the intentions that you want to set are around more about the feeling that you want to cultivate, the feeling of success, the feeling of what your role and what your expertise will feel like in 2021 versus determining simple metrics that will kind of falsely dictate what success means for you in this upcoming year. So I'll be hosting my first astrology workshop of the new year on Wednesday, January 13th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll be hosting our very first new moon masterclass and ceremony. And during that day, we're going to work together to set our intentions and to ask ourselves the questions that will reveal what we want to create in 2021. I'll have a reflection worksheet available for you, and then we will have time for a Q&A. If you won't be able to make it live, I will have a replay available. And I want you to be there more than anything. It's a sliding scale, a recommended price of $47 to $97, but really, I'd rather you be there, so it's pay what you can. Head over to thesavvyluminary.com/new moon to sign up. And if you're really into new moons, be sure to head over to Amazon and get my book, New Moon Rituals for Entrepreneurs. You'll have everything you need to personalize your ritual so that you can design your best year yet. Before we get into new moon personalizations, I want to answer a user question who left a voice message for me.
My name is Monica Bravo, and I'm an intuitive business strategist and ads expert. And I wanted to know if I should create a business vortex for women entrepreneurs that need coaching support on their ads. Should I start this vortex and when? It would be a monthly membership. My sign is Aquarius Sun and Pisces Rising and Pisces Moon. Thank you. Much love.
All right, Monica, when I look at your chart about should you create a monthly membership to teach women about technical strategies and client attraction and also uncovering their superpower messaging, everything to me on your site seems like a go. So a go, not a no, a go. So what I see in your chart, when I think about memberships and when I think about groups, I think about the 11th house, right? I think about our larger networks. When we're looking at our ideal customers, we are often looking at our 7th house cusp. But then we want to now blend this idea of your 7th house ideal customer with your 11th house ability. And what I see with your 11th house ability is that you have the power of the group. Because when I look at your chart, you have an intersected 11th house. What that means is that you have the same zodiac sign on the 11th and the 12th house cusp of Capricorn. So the power of group, your ability to bring in and call in people and help a group load of people is all around business and strategy and execution and systems, right? Capricorn ideals is that energy that you bring to your power of group. Now, also in your 11th house, you have Venus in Capricorn. So you love partnering with all of these women that want to create, having a group of go-getters, having a group of people that love to build something together. and you have your Mercury retrograde in the 11th house. So your power to communicate is also in there, your power to express yourself. So when I see all of these energies packed up in the 11th house for you, it's like, yeah, this feels really good for you because you have your ideal customers in there, like women business owners. You have what you want to do in there. You have that Mercury teaching communications and finding your message. And it's really interesting because you have Mercury retrograde. And it's like when we have a planet that is in retrograde, oftentimes the approach to those energies are a little bit different, or sometimes they're somehow not necessarily hidden, but the way that you get to them is a different approach. So I imagine that in this group, of course, sharing information, sharing technology, yes, because you are an Aquarius, that's just naturally what you do, just being online, being in technology, being on the cutting edge of whatever technology is available. That's just what Aquarians do, right? So that's what you naturally do. You're bringing it into this group to help them communicate. And Mercury retrograde in Capricorn means that you have this capacity to really dive into the systems of communicating. What does it take to have a very impactful message? What does it take to be seen in large online spaces, like in the 11th house groups? What does it take to be noticed in large spaces, right? So thinking of you having a group just feels absolutely aligned and fantastic. Now, when we look at the ruler of Capricorn, which is Saturn, Saturn is in Cancer, also retrograde and in your sixth house of service. So I imagine here when you direct your group information and your group teaching that you're going to come up with this kind of regular, systematic way. So sixth house systems are a little bit different than Capricorn systems. Capricorn systems are about creating foundational structures, where sixth house systems are about creating organization and efficiency and effectiveness and making sure that everything is running smoothly on a day-to-day regular basis. So I can imagine you teaching people how to automate things. I can imagine you teaching people how to create systems that run without them. I can imagine you helping them create systems also around because Saturn is in Cancer, around what has integrity, what has emotional integrity. So knowing that you want to help people run ads and like help their tech in their business, I imagine that your approach to running ads is very, very, very ethical. I don't know why that comes into me, but I get the sense that all of this is packaged in there. Now, my questions for you, Monica, would be around how are you going to standardize your membership, right? So that you have this really great source of subscription revenue that's coming in on a regular basis that is also scalable. I'm sure that you're putting together a wonderful framework and I love the idea that you're bringing in guest experts and having regular master classes. So this is really going to help you diversify your revenue by the ability to standardize and scale using all of that amazing Capricorn energy. And then, of course, directing it into this place of that system that you're teaching your customers with this wholeness in their business, how this system that they're going to put in place will make their business much more effective and whole. I hope that serves you. All right, so let's jump back to the new moon and let's talk about how you are going to personalize this new moon ritual for your life and for your business. So first things first, I want you to look at your chart and find out where 23 degrees of Capricorn exists in your chart. So the house that's being activated is where you need to reset what success looks like and feels like for you. That area in your chart is going to give you that information on where you need to be more responsible, where you need to bring in more sustainability. So, what does success look like to you, right? What does that feel like to you? If you have Capricorn at 23 degrees for your new moon activation in the first house, you're going to be looking at what success looks like and feels like for you around your brand and leadership ability. If 23 degrees of Capricorn happens in your second house, you're going to be planting your seeds of success and cultivating that feeling of success around your business's values, your business values, as well as how you add value to your customers. If 23 degrees of Capricorn happens in your third house, this is all about communications. What does success feel like when you are being heard, when you are able to promote your brand with an equitable message? If 23 degrees of Capricorn happens in your fourth house, you're going to be planting seeds of success around this place of emotional groundedness. So somebody in the Facebook group asked this specific question. What if my new moon activation happens right at the root of my chart, right at the fourth house root? Well, this is saying, how can you find success? How can you define success in an emotional way for yourself? Because I talk a lot about emotional security when I talk about my clients, because emotional security, that idea of rooting to rise, is so important. If we don't feel grounded in the way that we feel, then we end up making decisions based on fear instead of decisions based on faith. And so we need to, especially for those of us that have Capricorn at the root, emotional intelligence and emotional security is success for you. It literally is. So if you have your new moon activation happening in the fifth house, then you are looking at your success and redefining success and how you want to cultivate that feeling of success through your places of creative joy, play, pleasure, and purpose. If your new moon activation happens in the sixth house, you're going to be looking at success in the terms of, what does it feel like? What does success feel like with your day-to-day operations, your automations, and your ability to delegate to your employees, your service to others? If your new moon activation in Capricorn happens in the seventh house, you're going to be redefining your success and learning what success feels like when you are collaborating with your ideal customers, your partners, your affiliates, your co-creators. If your new moon activation happens in your eighth house, success, what does success look and feel like for you with your ability to transform, to heal, to bring things up from the shadows and make something new? This could also be something to do with harnessing other people's assets and other people's money. So, loans, debts, leveraging personal loans, anything like that, other people's money. If you have your new moon activation in your ninth house, this is all about understanding what success means to you and what success feels like to you from this expansive, innovative place, right? Your ideal vision, right? Thinking about the farthest reaches that you could have your big message heard. What does that feel like? What does success in that realm feel like for you? If you have your new moon activation happening in your 10th house, right? Success for you is achieving your ultimate mission. So, what does that look like and feel like for you? What is your ultimate mission? What is your ultimate achievement? And if I may add, how are you going to share? Right? How are you going to socially responsibly share that achievement with others? If your new moon activation happens in the 11th house, oh gosh, your success is based on social impact and community building. So, Monica, if you're still hearing, this is for you. So, thinking about your new membership and what kind of social impact and community building, what does that have to do with your success? What does that look and feel like? And now, if you have Capricorn of 23 degrees in the 12th house, activating your 12th house, success and your ultimate mission, what does that look and feel like with your ability to rest, restore, retreat, and bring more ease and flow into your business? I've been thinking a lot about social justice lately and talking to some future political leaders. And so I've been working on something, and the 12th house, traditionally is about prisons and it's about hospitals. And it's this place where, we think where we hide, we go hide all of the things that we don't want to see in the 12th house. But really, to me, the 12th house is this place of rebirth, right? And when we're thinking about social justice and this new future that we are currently building, we can see how reformation needs to happen in all of this, in our healthcare systems, based on like hospitals. Hospitals, we ideally want them to be places of healing, and sometimes they are not. And also with prisons, the idea of prisons before for me, the ideal of prisons is that these places can be places where people change, where they really, feel and look into themselves and recognize the harm that they've caused to create themselves and rebirth themselves again. And so I'm very, very hopeful that in this new world that we are building, that we will see some great reforms here. So if you have this in your 12th house, if you have Capricorn of 23 degrees in your 12th house, I want you to think about that also. Think of that frame of view of what are you here to reform, and what does success look like and feel like for you in that area of your business? Now, we have a lot of energies being activated, right? We have Pluto, we have the moon and the sun all at that 23, 24 degrees of Capricorn during this new moon activation. So, be conscious of the shadows that might come up, of that intensity that wants to come to the fore. Dive into that, get curious with it, don't run away from it. Dive into the darkest, the deepest shadows. If you're feeling this day like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be successful, or I'm never going to achieve what I want to do, get curious with where that comes from. Has it been from setbacks? And if it has been from setbacks, are you committed? How committed are you? Or if you haven't been committed, why not? Get really curious, right? The other theme that might be come up is responsibility, right? Have you been responsible for your success, right? Or have you not? Get truthful with yourself, because you're creating and you're designing your best 2021. So Pluto is going to be doing its job of diving deep into those shadows, and don't resist those shadows. Get curious with them and get real with yourself, right? So the other thing I want you to look at is I want you to look at any of your earth signs. So Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. If you have any of those earth signs at 23 degrees, those planetary energies are going to be in harmonious flow. So ask them what they want, how they want to work with you in harmony. And if you want to look at your cardinal signs, Capricorn is a cardinal sign. So Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, and Libra, if you have any of those signs with planets at 23 degrees in those signs, those energies are going to definitely want to add their voice. It's not going to necessarily feel comfortable, but it's going to have a lot of creative edge for you. So that's all I have for this new moon. Again, you are so invited to join me in my new moon ceremony. We will be journaling together, we will be diving deep together, and we'll be cultivating the feeling of what we want success to feel like in 2021. Of course, doing this in circle and doing this in ceremony, we combine all of our energies to make them more potent. All right, so let's do a recap of the astrology for the week of January 10th through January 16th. If you're already a subscriber to my email newsletter, at the very beginning of the month, I send you the full month's report. And if you are one of those that purchased my 2021 in the stars forecast, you also get your power dates for 2021. So those are dates that are selected for you that are most potent for launching long-term projects. For the themes and descriptions for those days, head over to your email and look up your January forecast, your business starcast, and you will get more detailed information. So on Monday, the 11th, Mercury joins Jupiter in Aquarius, and this is time to declare your dreams. What do you want to share online to reach a wider audience? A great day to share your vision with the wider world. But then on Tuesday, the 12th, Mercury is making its rounds, and this time it is squaring Uranus. So Mercury in Aquarius with Uranus in Taurus. And the theme of the day is change-making thinking. So what experiences are you going to shake up in your thoughts of change? Because change is here. Today is a day to take a risk and ask for something out of the ordinary. On Wednesday, the 13th, the tensions start to build. So first thing is that we have Mars now in Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. And we're going to see much more of this throughout the year. But Mars squaring Saturn means that it's time to slow down and shore up your structures. It's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So get curious. What does this discomfort want you to understand about your limits? Right? So do you need to speak up about your limits? Do you have to do less? Do you have to work slower? What is it? And then the theme of the year I mentioned earlier was Saturn squaring Uranus. And while we are not ready yet for an exact square, that's not going to be until mid-February. Saturn and Uranus are officially in orb. So, just looking at the chart, they are close enough to form a square, although it's not an exact square. So this is the energy of the entire year, and we're going to have ebbs and we're going to have flows in this, and we are building up to this right now. The first of 3 meetings, exact meetings that we are building up. So I want you to maybe journal a little bit to just kind of feel what comes up for you over the next month or so, to understand what systems in your life are being strained, right? So what limits can you create so you can work with more ease? What needs simplifying in your business? What can you pare down or delegate? You may feel like you are at a breaking point. On the 14th, Thursday the 14th, we finally have Uranus going direct. So I'm recording this on Friday, January 8th, and Uranus has already come to a complete stop. Okay. Uranus is so far out there. So you can imagine, because the planets that are super far out, when they change direction, they stay stationary, meaning they come to a complete stop in the sky for quite a while. And at that time that that planet is coming to a complete stop, even though it's so far out, normally we don't feel it on a personal level, but because it's like just drilling down on that 6 degrees of Taurus, we are feeling it. And so Uranus ideas and shakeups and innovations. Sometimes this could be like mutations or revolutions. It is drilling down on Taurus right now. And so on the 14th, it's going to move forward. All that pressure that you felt to break free over the last week is finally going to be able to move forward again. So take a notice and see if what Uranus themes of innovation and change have come up in your life over the last week. On that same day, on the 14th, we have Sun and Pluto starting a new cycle with a conjunction. So similar to the new moon cycle, when the moon and the sun meet, when it starts a new cycle, we have Pluto and the sun meeting. And so this is a yearly cycle that starts, and we are starting today. And so when the sun is conjunct Pluto, the theme is vital power to transform. So in your business, what superpowers of yours are being transformed and awakened? What's being uncapped right now? It's a great day to empower yourself and others. And then on Friday the 15th, here we go. We're getting ready for our first Mercury retrograde. Mercury officially enters the shadow zone. So I want you to notice your thoughts about the future. Mercury is going to be retrograding in Aquarius coming up, but it officially entered the shadow zone of 11 degrees of Aquarius. So notice over the few weeks, Mercury is still moving forward, but it's starting to slow down before it hits reverse and goes backwards, where we get to rethink what we want in the future. So start to notice your thoughts about the future and what comes up that requires rethinking your role in your communities over the next few weeks. It's a great time to reflect again and notice these themes coming forward. All right. This is an information-packed episode, everybody. I hope that it wasn't too much an overload of information. There's just so much that I want to share with you and to inspire you. But, sit with the discomfort. I just feel that we're coming into kind of a tight time. Things will lighten up. So use this opportunity to get curious, to reflect on what this tension is trying to teach us. So let's reflect back on our mantra to close our energy today. Thank you so much for making this time for me and for you. And so please ground your feet. Take a clearing breath. And repeat this into your soul. I know what success feels like and recognize myself as successful. Thank you. Until next week. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to the Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.